Our first session focuses on the role of technology in addressing employee mental health. And according to the recent AI at Work study ran by Oracle and Workplace Intelligence, the pandemic has created the most stressful year in history, negatively impacting the mental health of 78% of the global workforce. And interestingly, 82% of people want robots to support their mental health at work. I'm very excited to welcome our speakers. First, Dan Schawbel, a New York Times best-selling author and managing partner of Workplace Intelligence, which is a research and advisory firm helping HR adapt to trends, drive performance, and prepare for the future. Dan is the author of 3 career books, Back to Human, Promote Yourself, and Me 2.0. And he also hosts the 5 Questions podcast, where he interviews world-class business leaders like Reed Hastings, Meg Whitman, Richard Branson, and more. Welcome, Dan.
So happy to be here with you.
Next, I'd like to welcome to the virtual stage Emily He, Senior Vice President of HCM at Oracle. Emily is a recognized thought leader on digital transformation and the future of work, with recent recognition on the 2020 Top 100 HR Tech Influencers list, and her insights are featured in places like The Economist, Fortune, the Financial Times, Forbes, Fast Company, and the list goes on. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'd like to ask both of you several questions about the recent AI at Work study and overall mental health in the workplace. And the first question I'd love to ask is mental health. It's not new. It certainly existed before the pandemic. But one of the things we're seeing is that it's come to the forefront in a very big way. And my question is, what do you think has caused that to happen? What's driven it? Dan, I'd love to ask you that question first.
Well, hundreds of millions of people had suffered from mental health issues before the pandemic, and the pandemic, which is also a health crisis globally, and it also caused a recession, heightened and accelerated the mental health issues that we face. And the thing about mental health that's so important is you either suffered right now, you have in the past, you may in the future, or you interact with someone who does. And I think that's so important because when we interviewed over 12,000 of the C-suite, HR leaders, managers, and employees from 11 countries, we saw that, yes, people are suffering everywhere. It did validate a lot of what we were thinking of. This is a big crisis. And one of the things that stood out in the study that was really interesting is that, yes, so many people working from home. And because so many people working from home, there's no real commute time anymore. Our commute time is, for me, it's 3 feet from my bed. And I think for a lot of people, you don't have to go far to do work anymore, which means that you're not spending that time on a train, on a plane, in a car, with a 15-minute commute time or up to maybe 2, 3, 4 hours of a commute time. And so you've reallocated that time, not into listening to a podcast, but into doing more work. And that has perpetuated the burnout crisis we're in. And while over the past 6, 7 months, we've experienced the most productivity that we have in many years, which has come from the fact that people are just working more hours, eventually that will become counterproductive, because while you get more productivity, the study found that you get the mental health issues with that. So it's accelerated these trends like remote work and the use of technology, but at the same time, we have to deal with mental health issues and address those issues.
Yeah, Dan is so right. The mental health issue was already an issue in the workplace before the pandemic. The one good impact of the pandemic is it's really brought us together. What we realized during this experience is we're all human beings going through these challenges together. So when we did the study with Workplace Intelligence, we went out to survey 12,000 employees, HR professionals, managers, and C-suite across 11 countries. And the findings are pretty consistent. 70% of the people said this is the most stressful year ever in their professional life. And 78% of the people say they have been impacted by mental health issues. And this is not only impacting their productivity in the workplace, but also impacting their personal lives, causing sleep deprivation, poor physical health, reduced happiness at home, suffering family relationships, all of which in turn also impact their workplace productivity. So this is a global crisis as a result of the pandemic, and it needs to come to the forefront as an HR issue, management issue, as a business challenge we all talk openly about.
And to add on quickly to what Emily said, that's so important is work and life are more blended than ever before. Home is work, work is home. And because of that, you cannot escape the issues you have. And it almost, like if you have a family at home, it like infects your whole family if you are suffering from anxiety and depression and burnout. So we have to handle this now. It needs to be at the top of the HR agenda, of the C-suite agenda even, because the people at the top are actually suffering, based on the study, suffering more than just employees or managers. And if the leaders at the top are suffering so much and are not doing something about it, they're probably not doing something for the whole organization. So everyone suffers as a result. So a healthy executive or a healthier executive is going to mean a healthier workplace.
That's great. That's great, Dan. That's great, Emily. Very good points. We're certainly all impacted by this issue in one way or another. And it actually leads into the next question that I wanted to ask. And that is, what is the role of organizations and HR in addressing these issues? Emily, maybe I could start with you first.
I think the organizations play a huge role in helping their employees address mental health, especially in an environment now where, like Dan said, work and life are so integrated. Our personal issues are workplace issues. And according to the survey, the good thing is 51% of the people say their organizations since the pandemic have already stepped up their support and service for mental health. But 76% of the people say they believe their organization should be doing more in providing services and support in addressing mental health. And when we talk to organizations around the world, when we talk to our customers, the great thing is organizations are stepping up to do more. The thing is, there's no blueprint. So many organizations are just improvising, trying to respond to their employees' needs, and they're doing creative things to step up their mental health support. What we've heard from customers are things like they're making it more frequent. They're making their corporate communication more frequent, so employees don't feel isolated when they're working from home, and they can hear from the executives more frequently through these open town halls or open Q&As or Ask Me Anything sessions. HR teams are also raising more awareness around the employee assistance program, which typically includes telehealth or free counseling. So people have resources they can go to discuss their mental health issues. There are also other companies that are providing just general relief and help to their employees, either by offering free childcare or tutoring for working parents, where they are delivering grocery to their homes to continue that sense of connection between the company and the employees. But there's a lot employees want their organizations to do.
And to add on to what Emily said, that is so important, this is part of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that now, especially, employees are expecting much more from employers. And this is part of the bigger movement and puzzle, meaning that over the past 6-7 months, employees expect an investment in their education. They expect, like Emily was saying, and that connects to this study, is a higher degree and more offerings for their employee assistance programs to focus on their mental health, not just physical health and other benefits. They want to know what companies are doing politically and socially. How are they helping the environment? How are they helping society, not just making a profit? They want to know so much more. They want to have a purpose when they work for a company. They want the company to, make an impact overall in our society, in our culture, maybe even worldwide. And so I think that because more is expecting of employers, and these questions are being asked regularly, and you can see how employers are responding in the news, in terms of how they're taking care of employee, safety and health. in terms of office space, what employers are, investing in, and a lot of companies are giving money to workers who are at home who need to set up home offices. And so much more is being expected, which means that companies and their leaders have to rise to the occasion, because it's not just good for employees, it's good for everyone in the company. It's good for the leadership, it's good for the C-suite. And if you want to attract and retain the best talent moving forward, these leaders in the companies have to answer these big questions.
Yeah, great points. And one of the things that also came out in the study was, dealing with employee expectations. Technology came to the forefront. One of the things that the study showed was that 68% of the respondents would prefer to actually talk to a robot over their manager about their mental health issues. 82% of people believe that robots can actually support their mental health overall better than humans can. And the question I have is, what do you feel is driving that? Emily, maybe I could start with you on that one.
This is a great question. It's probably the most surprising finding from the study. My belief is for mental health issues, although the pandemic has brought us together and we are able to talk about mental health more openly, there's still a sense of stigma associated with mental health. And especially in the current environment where people are concerned about losing their jobs, they may not be willing to go to their manager and talk about mental health openly. And technology provides this judgment-free zone where they can ask questions in a safe way and they can get answers quickly because technology is available 24/7.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, which is really important, much like COVID doesn't care, what your race is, your net worth is, your age is, COVID takes no prisoners in a sense. You can look at technology the same way. It doesn't care kind of who you are. It's going to help you out 24/7. So instead of, trying to nag your therapist at 4 a.m, you can get the answers to a lot of your health related questions without judgment at that time. And I think the scalability of the technology, the comfort level, and the accessibility, you're not going to have 2 billion people wanting to become therapists, right? But you can have a certain amount of therapists, let's say 1 million therapists, and then the technology adds this level of augmentation and support that allows you to scale to meet the needs of the whole world. And I think that's the only way we're going to be able to truly solve our mental health problems, is to have enough of the technology, enough usage, enough companies who are investing in these tools, right? So companies either have these tools in-house or they, buy licenses or partner with technology companies, in this instance like Oracle, to have the software to meet the needs of employees, because they're far and wide, especially at companies, there are some companies with hundreds of thousands of employees. And so I think that this is not a one size fits all tool. This is not, just, even though we found in the study, this is not just, hey, let's just use technology and disregard, humans. No, what we're trying to find out, and why we partner on these studies, is we're trying to find out the role of humans and robots in the workplace and what tasks and responsibilities each have in order to meet the needs of the workforce and the business. And so what we found, to no surprise, is more of these soft skills, the things that you can't automate, being able to relate to another human being and show empathy. Humans are going to be in charge of that, but for things like, having quick responses to healthcare questions, or, accessibility, providing a judgment-free zone, that's more along the lines of what robots and artificial intelligence are going to deploy and be focused on. So it's really, think of humans and robots as a team in order to meet the needs of the growing workforce. And of course, during this time, over the past 7 months, even towards March and April, companies were investing much more in technology because, again, scalability, innovation, growth, all these things are important. And companies have realized, and we've all taken a step back during this time, saying, hey, we need to start to really invest in the future, because we have all these problems. They're growing problems, like the mental health problem that we're focused on. And technology is part of the solution, a bigger part of the solution, and people are turning to it without even thinking about it. I think people need to realize this, is that artificial intelligence is already here. We're already kind of using it. We just are already taking it for granted. We're not thinking about it. When we talk to Alexa or Siri, it's a habit at this point. And so we're already talking to robots and artificial intelligence to try and get the answers to our questions. And we're becoming much more comfortable asking it about health related questions. Think about it, before you even go to the doctor, you're Googling and trying to ask questions to try and self-diagnose yourself. I mean, that didn't really exist when I was growing up. So we already are, the technology revolution is already here. We're already interacting with chatbots and artificial intelligence in order to get the non-biased responses that we're looking for whenever we want them. So we have to remember that we're not thinking about 20 years in the future. It's here today.
Yeah, and this is such an important point. It has to do with evolving employee expectation. Employees are already asking questions to Alexa, to Siri in their day-to-day lives. They're using their devices to get tips and tricks on how to ensure fitness or nutrition. They want the same experience when they come to the workplace. The other thing around mental health that's sort of an added dimension is humans are in many cases inadequate when it comes to responding to mental health concerns. And if you're not a trained professional, oftentimes you don't know what is the right thing to say, and you don't know what resources to point your employees to. So if your employees come to you and says, I'm really stressed, or I'm feeling a little down and depressed, our natural response is to say, well, you shouldn't feel depressed. Well, that's not helpful, right? There are questions you can kind of guide employees through around their sleep, their nutrition, their stress level, and then you point them to the right resources to get help. And this is where there's a great collaboration between machines and humans. Machines can help humans scale best practices and deliver the right response to employees so they can get the right help faster and 24/7.
That's, and there's so many ways we all use technology today. So it just makes sense. I guess the last question I'd love to ask is, piggybacking on that, are there any examples of technology that you've seen in place that have helped address the mental health issue, in particular as the pandemic has arisen? Dan, maybe I could ask you first.
Yeah, a lot of companies are using apps and hardware, the combination, to take user data, consumer data, employee data, and provide them information based on the number of steps they have, their heart rate. People are more willing to give out their health-related data and information than ever before, as long as the technology helps them solve their problems, right? So like if I know I'm doing 10,000 steps a day, and that makes me healthier, I'm gonna, pace around my room until I get that 10,000, which would take a while. But the point is that we're giving out more data than we think, and we're doing it intentionally as long as we get something in return. In this case, it is a healthier lifestyle. Headspace is being used by a lot of companies. They sell, licenses, and then companies will get, 10,000 licenses. And then, that level of mindfulness that people get from using that app in the form of meditation, that's very helpful too. But I think what we have to think about, and you have like Starbucks that provides 20 free hours of virtual therapy to employees. And they started that, about in May during the pandemic, because they saw that there was a rising need and they had to meet that need through technology, but also through humans. Again, it's the collaboration. There is not one app that's going to solve the mental health problem. There's not, one person that is, right? It's the collection of all the apps, all the technologies, the humans behind the technologies, the humans that augment and supplement the apps. It's that technology that supplements the humans. It's not one size fits all. There's, maybe some sort of hybrid approach that forms here, but we have to try and look at this more holistically, because we're talking about an entire global population. And so in order to meet the needs of that population, in order to get people the help they need, because we're all kind of different. You could have someone who we did have people who prefer to talk to a human over a robot. Thus, I think that we need to provide more, not less, to address these needs.
Emily, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that one?
Yeah, definitely. I think the underlying technology is already there, and a lot of technology pieces can be leveraged to promote mental health. It's really about organizations prioritizing mental health as a challenge they want to help their employees with. When HR teams put together solutions, I encourage everybody to think about 3 areas. The first one is connecting your employees to the right resources. You can do this, for example, through training your digital assistant to point employees to the right resource as part of the employee assistance program. By the way, right now, the utilization rate of the EAP program is only 10%. So a lot of employees are not even aware there's telehealth resources, there are online counseling services available as part of the EAP program. And digital assistant is a great vehicle to help employees navigate to the right resources. Another capability we launched recently is called Journeys. So when employees join companies, they typically go through a onboarding journey. Why not give them a mental health journey that walks them through a set of best practices, whether it's setting up a ergonomically friendly home environment for your work, or managing your nutrition, managing your sleep, the resources available. This is a great way to provide guidance and support to your employees. The second component I encourage everyone to think about is foster that sense of community. When people are working remotely, they don't have a water cooler to go to where they can have conversations. They can't go to lunch with another colleague. So you really need to reimagine your HR processes to foster that sense of connection. Recently, we introduced a new capability called Connections. It's a new modern way of doing HR directory. And when you go online, not only can you see for each employee a picture or a short video of them, you can also see their hobbies, their experience, their career aspirations, their skills. And by looking at this information, you can find new opportunities to connect with other employees around the globe, by the way, based on their hobbies and their career aspirations or functional skill sets. The third area I encourage everyone to think about is around career growth. Even when people are working remotely, they want to feel they're learning something, they're growing, and they have new opportunities that allow them to hone their skill set. Recently, we launched a new capability called Opportunity Marketplace, and it's an internal gigs marketplace where people can find projects they can get involved in, or internal job postings, or even volunteer opportunities. And this is a great way for employees to come together and still continue that sense of growth and career development.
Oh, that's great. Well, it is certainly a great time in terms of technology being available to support so much. So thank you so much, Dan and Emily, for being here today. Certainly it's eye-opening to see how much of an impact this pandemic has had on everybody's mental health. But of course, it's great to see that there are some ways out there to get the support that's needed. So thank you. Let's move on to our next session.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.